Episode 19, How to Set Limits with Social Media. An interview with Rose Allen, mom of twins. Everyone knows that staying off of social media is hard to do, but we try to stay away because we need more time being present with our kids, right? We don't want them growing up with a mom who has her phone up in her face all the time, right? But really, how do we do it? How is it possible? Can we maintain balance, or is it just best to give it all up? Rose Allen was blessed with twins as her first babies, and she has done marvelously thus far of keeping them alive. She is also mostly not on social media. I've brought her on here today, first off, to ask her why, and secondly, how she does it, and what she thinks the benefits are of living mostly social media free. Hi, my name is Lindsay Clyde, and this is Learn, Live, Love Yourself, a podcast where self-discovery leads to self-lovery. Each episode, I am delivering fun, practical ways to peel back the layers of your life and tap into that deep down you. Changing your mind one challenge at a time, this podcast will get you loving yourself better every day. It's time to grow. Come learn, live, love yourself with me. Rose, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into this. Give us a brief snapshot of your life. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to college? Husband, twins.
Okay. That's about how it goes. I was born in Missouri, spent most of my childhood in Eagle, Idaho. Moved to Highland, Utah, where I met my husband, Ryan Allen, in AP US History.
Oh, cute.
Yep, I fell for him pretty fast and then spent the rest of junior year singing You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift. That music video was my life.
Yeah.
But it worked out. He eventually noticed me and the rest is history.
And then these little twins, tell us their names. How old are they?
So Charlie and Robin, they were born 2017, so they're almost 2. That's gone by really fast.
Has it? Is that the truth?
I forget, that I'm not pregnant still sometimes. It's just I can't believe these toddlers are mine.
And they're walking around outside and scootering and stuff. Yeah.
They're doing well.
Let's talk about social media. Okay, so let's back up to before the babies. What was social media to you before you had any babies?
I've always been pretty neutral towards it. I've never been someone who posts every day or comments on all of the friends' posts or comments on all of the controversial posts. But I definitely didn't have negative feelings towards it for a long time. It was just, every once in a while I would post. I like to check once or twice a day. Once I got Instagram, it was easier to check more times a day.
Totally.
So just pretty neutral, I would say. Average.
Did that change after having babies?
Yeah, for sure. I had this really sad realization after they were born. I had these newborn twins, which is really demanding and just mentally exhausting because they're crying at you most of the time. When one is happy, the other one's not. So, you're exhausted. But I had this really sad realization that in the moments of boredom or the moments of just exhaustion, what I craved was to check my phone to see if I had any notifications or if anyone had contacted me, which makes sense. I wanted communication with the outside world, which I wasn't getting.
Yes.
But it was sad to me that rather than turn to my babies or just kind of soak in the moment, that I had this need, almost this need for a dopamine hit of just this thing I was used to, this positive feedback that I wanted.
Yeah, and when did you realize that? How long did it take you to realize that?
Oh, probably just a couple weeks or months. Not long. And that was kind of the catalyst for making me realize this isn't something that I want to be that attached to. And also it's not something that I need. The benefits that it's giving me are not equal to the peace that I'm losing just in my own mind and the moments that I miss.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to note that you actually realize this for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess that there are listeners right now who don't even realize that they're doing this. And I'm not saying this from like a condescending type of way. I'm saying that you are an anomaly. And the reason why we don't realize we're doing this is because there are sneaky people who are paid to get us to not realize that we're addicted to our phones.
Yeah.
That we are addicted. It's a dopamine hit, just the same as if we were playing like a slot machine or, taking drugs. It's a different way. It's a different mental state that you're in, but that is so important that you were able to come to that realization on your own. So once you realize that, what did you do?
Yeah, so that was tricky. The extricating myself one step at a time was tricky because I'd decide I didn't want to be on Instagram anymore. And then the next week, my friends would all be talking about something that happened, or I'll post something and I'd want to check up, or I'd have another friend who was having a baby and I'd want to see, okay, has she had her baby yet? Has she had her baby yet? So there are always reasons to get back on and check, and I discovered that it's too hard, and I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to completely just end all of your accounts and walk away from social media. I think that it's kind of unpractical. I think that what we need to do is just determine what we're using it for and if that's the best way to accomplish that goal. So, if you want to use it to check in on your friends, is that the best way to do that? Or if you want to use it as a journal, that's one that I think is hard to give up because it's a really easy way to keep track of pictures. And is that the best way to do it? And it might be. And that's fine. I don't think we have to, walk away. I'm not anti-social media, but you do need to decide how you want to use it and what you're using it for, and then deliberately approach it that way. That's what I had to do, was I had to decide, basically set my limits, and then open myself back up to it. So for me, that was taking social media apps off my phone and checking it far, far less, posting far less. And so those were kind of the slow steps. I've been reading a lot of books on this because I think it's a popular topic. And I've learned a lot of tips from that as well that we'll probably get into later.
Yeah, please. So what are the questions that you ask yourself when you're trying to figure out what you're using social media for? What was that mental process like for you?
I definitely asked myself often, how do I feel? Like, why do I want to do this right now? And then afterwards, how do I feel? I think I'm a very emotional person. I can sense when my emotions change, and I would also notice, pretty quickly. I think I'm pretty sensitive to social media. I know this about myself, that I'm going to feel bad if I see pictures of friends hanging out without me, even if it was perfectly reasonable, even if I was out of town, or, I'm going to feel like I should have 6 children already because my high school buddy does. Do you know what I mean? So I learned that about myself, and so would ask myself, this isn't contributing to my life in a positive way, and how can I make it so that it's positive, and what do I use it for? Why do I feel that pull?
That's making me wonder, what do I use it for?
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I struggle with. Well, I go up and down with it because I'm kind of more of a all or nothing person. Like, I just have to walk away from it. And I did for a while. I taught myself to just be okay without it. Even if I didn't know if my friend had her baby yet, like, I had to text her and ask, like, heaven forbid.
Yeah, right? Heaven forbid she knows you're wondering about her and
she feels like I actually care about her because I reached out to her outside of, Instagram. But, it was easier for me to just completely be off of it. And the reason I get pulled back in is because the more I use it, the more comments I leave or questions I ask and engagement I provide, I'm waiting for a response.
Mm-hmm.
So even like with the podcast right now, I might reach out to somebody on social media to ask, hey, will you be on my podcast? Right. And then I don't have my Instagram notifications on my phone because I want to try and keep that away. So instead, I just hop back on Instagram to see like, oh, is that little notification on the little paper airplane sender? You know, did they message me back? And after I jump on, the first picture catches my eye, right. Or my sister-in-law has a new story up. And so instead of going there for what I was even trying to do, just check for a new message, which I could see on the first screen. Right. You know, I could have looked for 1 millisecond and then turned it off. I'm on for like 10 minutes doing nothing, you know, scrolling to the bottom and saying like, you're all caught up. And I'm like, wait, what? I wasn't even supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So,
how did I get here?
How did I get here? And so for me, what am I using social media for? It's for communication. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like what you're saying, for that interaction or human connection. Mm-hmm. But if I really step back and think about it, it doesn't give it to me.
Yeah.
That's why I keep going back, because I'm never satisfied.
And I think that's one of the saddest parts, is it's this superficial substitute that kind of keeps us numb to the fact that we want this deeper connection because we're getting just enough. And it's not even connection really so much as contact. We're just getting enough contact that we forget our motivation to get together with other people. And so we never do receive those deep, meaningful connections that we need regularly. And instead, we're just on this like superficial plane of busyness, of social busyness that doesn't actually amount to anything.
That's interesting, that word busyness. I've been thinking about that a lot just in terms of life. Just how our church leaders have said, like, it's not, being busy is not the goal. You know, just because you're busy doesn't mean that you're actually accomplishing the things you want to accomplish. And so that's interesting to put it in those terms, social busyness, which kind of makes it more negative. And helps me realize it's maybe not exactly what I want.
In one of the books I was reading about this, it's called Digital Minimalism.
Yeah.
Cal Newport is the author. He talks a lot about Thoreau, which is fun because Henry David Thoreau.
Oh, Thoreau. I thought you said
the
row. I was like, what's Thoreau?
Yeah, Thoreau.
Yeah.
And how in Thoreau's lifetime, they were building telegraphs, and everybody was all excited about this telegraph going from Maine to Texas. And he said something along the lines of, you know, in all of this excitement to build the telegraph from Maine to Texas, we may forget to realize that Maine and Texas do not actually have anything that important to communicate to each other. And I think that happens to us a lot with social media and by social media, I mean email, texting, and all the other accounts.
So you're lumping in just digital communication.
Yeah, digital communication is that we're so sucked in, like you said, we get so sucked in, they're engineered that way, that we forget what we're even trying to communicate or why we're even trying to communicate. We want to get on there to connect with our friends, to contact our friends so that we can actually set up real life interactions. Hopefully, you know, texting your friend to come over or calling someone. But instead we get lost in just this maze of scrolling and notifications and ads and more scrolling.
Yeah. And so what's it doing to us as a society? Like, in your opinion, is there any benefit to this, or is it all doom and gloom?
I have a lot of thoughts about this, so you might need to cut me off. I think that all technology is awesome, that it provides us with the ability to do a lot of things we couldn't otherwise do. But I do think that this has happened really fast. Like, it's just been pushed on us. And kind of before we've had the chance to stop and say, this is what's coming. How do we want to use it? Instead, it's just like all of a sudden we all have smartphones. We all have all of these apps and accounts, and this is just how society communicates now. And it's like, if you don't get on the boat, you're left behind. And so I think that we're losing a lot of important things as well, though. And you'll everybody will cite to you the effects that it has on like anxiety and other just mental problems that it brings. But I think that there's also a lot of subtleties that our society and that we're losing individually as well. One of them being, I've thought a lot about friendship. And I think that when we're so immersed in this global friendship, basically you can remain friends with everybody you have ever known.
Mm-hmm.
We lose the ability to have deep friendships in the present because we aren't forced to sit out the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you get in a fight or something bad happens, it's like, well, I can get along without you because I have 1,500 followers who are validating me and contacting me every day. I can see what they're doing, and I feel connected to them. But I think that a lot of us don't realize that we have this hole. Our souls are suffering because we don't have that meaningful friendship. I think everything that's really meaningful is because you had to sacrifice a lot for it and because it's hard. But we don't have to sit out that hard anymore because we're so connected. So that's one of my ideas.
Yes.
Losing
more,
friendship.
please.
I think we're also losing conversation and the ability to converse well. We're not used to being bored. We're not used to just sitting in silence. It used to be that, once the iPod came out, I guess even before that, we had Walkman CDs. And so, you could take it to the store and listen to your music all the way there. And then you have an iPod, so it's even smaller, more music all the time. But there were still times when you were forced to just kind of be alone with yourself, right?
Yeah.
But with the smartphone, now even if you're not listening to something, you can always check. And you're just constantly getting this input from other external sources, and we're losing our own solitude. I don't know. I think about, this is one of the main things I recognized when I took a step back from social media, was I felt like I returned to myself. I felt like it had been years since I had just been alone with myself. I don't know, like if you remember being a kid, when you get done doing your homework and your chores, it's like, ooh, what am I going to do now? I'm going to go read Harry Potter down in my favorite chair, or I'm going to go play farm outside. I'm going to go do more chores. I don't know why I did that.
That's awesome. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. So once I took a step back from social media, it was like this old friend, my brain, was like, hello. It's nice to just sit here and think again. It's nice to be alone with my thoughts.
I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about, because for me, sometimes I would go to teach an exercise fitness class at night or on the weekend when I didn't have my kids. And I can walk to our YMCA. And so I would just put my backpack on and I would say, bye family. And I'd walk out the door and I would feel so cheesy because I felt like I should be that guy in the cartoon who's whistling as he struts down the street. Yeah, exactly. And I realized I appreciate walking alone in the city without any distractions. And I would pass lots of people who were just looking down at their phones or had their headphones in, and I could see that I really appreciated just that time to look around and take it in. And I think the contrast was even more apparent because I do have kids most of the time. Yeah. If I do have a moment of silence with my children, which is not very often, what do I do with my moment of silence? I fill it with more noise, which is just a bunch of signals coming in from around the globe, like you were saying. And so if I could pinpoint my happy alone time or my hello brain, my old friend, it would be skipping down to the YMCA to teach my class.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so important that we have that time every day.
Every day.
Every day.
When am I going to do that?
That's another thing is you'll find that if you cut out some social media time, it's not like you're going to have these giant blocks of time that you were spending. Most people are not spending hours on social media.
No, it's like 5 minutes.
It's the moments.
10 minutes here and there.
It's the moments. And that's what I feel the most happy about reclaiming because, well, I have this quote by an author named Michael Harris. And he said, "We need absences in order to think and see for ourselves. Indeed, the kinds of thoughts that present themselves in our emptiest moments, the moments when we stare out the train's windows or hover on a lawn, these are the only thoughts that can deliver a strange new understanding." And I just realized that is so, so applicable to us when we have that moment of boredom, an instant when we can check our phone. We often do. And we lose the ability to receive that clarification for our life, or our brain to process what's going on with your day or that conversation you just had and get the insight and the inspiration that you really need. Instead, we're just filling it with noise, like you said.
Where is that quote from?
Michael Harris.
Is he an author or something?
I think it was quoted in another book that I read.
Because, well, the reason I ask is because I was reading a book, didn't finish it yet, but Peak Performance. It's about the balance between stress and rest, and stress being like pushing your bodily limits. And they also refer to creativity and problem solving, and it's scientifically proven that if you do not give your body or your mind significant rest time, that you are less capable of problem solving. And that a lot of times people will joke about, oh, you know, I was working really hard at work trying to solve this or trying to think of an idea for my next whatever, and then I had to set it down. I went and I took a shower, and then boom, you know, it hit me. And it's something that actually happens in your brain, that when that other side of your brain shuts down, the resting, quote unquote resting side is working and comes to life. But if we're engaged in social media, that's gonna cut off our resting. Like, are we dumber? We're probably dumber. We're probably living less happy lives because we're not solving problems and creating as much as we would if we had time to rest.
I think you can probably relate it to like not allowing yourself to sleep.
Yeah.
Like low-level torture.
Yeah.
Is just not letting your brain have that processing time that it needs.
Yeah. I love that quote. Okay, so we're talking about needing time, needing space. You were saying these are some things, like what are we missing out on in society? Do you have any other things that you were going to mention?
The last thing, and I think I kind of touched on this a little bit, is just the loss of boredom. I've been thinking about geniuses and where do they come from?
Yeah.
I kind of wonder where like the musical and literary, social, political geniuses are going to come from in our generation, because I feel like that takes a lot of thought, a lot of brain processing time alone with your thoughts. And I think that for each of us, boredom is really important to the creative process, whether you're a genius or not. Another quote I have from Blaise Pascal, who was from the late 1600s, he said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Since reading that, if I'm in a group setting, I'll just kind of watch. And it's really interesting how if there's a lull in the conversation, most people aren't comfortable with it, first of all. And if they're not trying to fill it by saying something, they'll go to their phones, even in like a group social setting. I feel like it used to be a thing where you don't take your phone out, like on a date or at parties. But now it's just your right hand.
Totally.
So
that's interesting. I was just over at your house the other day. Were you watching me?
I know.
In the group
Not
of
that
people?
I was probably way too busy keeping my toddlers from biting
trying
other
to
children.
like keep us from all wrecking your house, probably. But that's so interesting. And then I thought, while you were talking about that, I thought, when are some times when groups of people are okay lapsing into silence? And the only time I can think of is when I'm with a group of people I know really well, and we're sitting around a fire.
A campfire.
Yep.
Because you have something to watch?
I guess maybe that's it. But also, like, maybe it is, even if I don't know the people very well. But something about that relaxed environment, like it's darker, you've got like the nice ambient noise of the fire, which is not a white noise machine, but an actual like fire. I wonder what it is that allows that. That's interesting. But yeah,
more fires in our life.
Yeah, more fires in our life and less phones.
Yeah.
Less Kindle fires. Get it? Okay. All right. So, what would your ideal healthy relationship with social media look like?
Yeah.
How often would you get on? Who would you be following? What apps would you use?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty proud to say I feel like I'm living my idea right
Hey,
now.
praise hands.
I'm living the dream. So what I've done is I only have texting and email on my phone. So I still have Instagram and Facebook accounts, but they are just on my computer.
Okay.
That's kind of an extra barrier to make sure, like, I need to get on. And I get on Instagram probably once a week. I teach a bar class, so I check certain bar accounts for moves that I can include in my class. And I check a site, a woman, I don't even know what it is.
A site woman.
called Busy Toddler.
Yeah.
You can guess why. And that's what I try to do. I recently have been unfollowing people.
Uh-oh.
I'm afraid everyone's going to go check and see if I'm following them.
If you're not following them,
I was probably
why.
never friends. Yeah, no,
tell us why you're not following them.
I've been unfollowing people that aren't currently in my life. So that person from 8th grade, that classmate, from college, the teacher that I don't even remember her first name.
Uh-huh.
And even the people that were in my life a year ago but have since moved away, and we never were really that close. We were just kind of on, friendly hello terms. I've unfollowed because there's no reason for me to keep track of them. I've decided that there's only room for me to be a good friend to a finite number of people.
Yeah.
And the energy that I put into tracking so many people and commenting and liking is taken away from the people that are actually in my life right now. And I'd rather just be with the people that I have right now. For selfish reasons too. I think that it, like we were talking about, it fulfills my need for meaningful connections. So Instagram and Facebook are only on my computer.
Okay.
And then I actually don't let myself check email only once a day. Otherwise, I find myself checking it all the time.
Yeah.
For things that I can tell myself are important, but actually they can wait until nighttime or whenever. And I have my phone on Do Not Disturb mode all day so that I don't hear the ping when I get a text. And I try to just check it like at meal times, or, if it's morning and I'm waiting to see what all my mom friends are doing with their kids, I'll, check before we go out, or check at lunchtime to see if there's afternoon plans. But I try to be reasonable about when I'm checking for messages. Which, by the way, if you're worried that some emergency is going to happen and nobody will be able to reach you, you can, anybody who is a favorite on your phone gets through Do Not Disturb. So if there's truly an emergency in your life and your mom needs to call you, make her a favorite and it'll ring loud and clear. Yeah.
I think they also have settings like that on Samsung phones that allow, like, you can say Do Not Disturb except for this, and this, or like certain times of the day or things like that.
Sometimes you have to dig a little bit to find these workarounds, but they exist and it will make your life so much better.
Yeah.
Forgetting if there's any other things that I do differently than other people.
How much time do you actually spend once you do get on to Instagram and Facebook? Do you set timers? Do you just kind of feel it out? Like,
I don't set timers anymore, really. I think when I first started really being conscious of this, I'd be like, okay, it's 9:30 and I'm going to stop by 10. And I'm going to stop because there's something I'd actually much rather be doing, and this is cutting away from that time.
Mm-hmm.
But now, the longer that I'm away from it all, the less of a pull it has on me, and I just feel like the blinders are being pulled off, and where it's just like, I can see it for what it is and recognize that I'm actually not that interested in seeing who so-and-so's sister ended up marrying,
You're not? I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's true. I'm at a weird place where I have to be on. Well, I don't have to be on.
Well, it is for your work. I mean, that's hard.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I could do my podcast without being on social media.
Yeah.
It would grow even more slowly than it already is
Yeah.
growing, but I could do it. I don't know. I guess what's my question?
I would say don't try to cut it out because it's not feasible, and that's a good use of technology. But I would say use it to your benefit. Use it like a professional. Use it like it's your day job. So my recommendation, and you can probably think of many, would be to cut out, unfollow the people who you don't actually need to follow, so that when you get on, there's a lot fewer notifications and things to scroll through, a lot fewer people to get lost in. And when you get on, be really conscious. And this will freak you out because like you will find yourself being like, okay, I am just going to post this thing for this episode and then I'm going to get off. And then 20 minutes later, you'll be like, how?
Oh, no.
What in the world? And let that serve as a testament to you that it's engineered to do that.
Yes.
And that nobody is stronger than the internet. So you have to put these barriers in place for yourself. So I don't know, set a timer if that helps you. But yeah. I have found that cutting down on the actual structural things that are going to pop up in my face really helps.
And that, there's so many different, and I'm not sure how many people this actually applies to, so maybe we cut it out. But there's so many different facets to using Instagram or Facebook for your work that go into this. And so I'm trying to think of, like, how can I make this work for me? Because, like, I have my strengths, and I'm doing pretty well, I would say now. After being totally addicted to going cold turkey before the podcast launched to trying to let it back into my life. But, you know, I just use it as kind of my personal account too. Like, I haven't been on my personal account for months because doing my podcast account is so much work that, like, I follow my friends on my podcast account. So it's mixing work with, what's that term? Pleasure? I don't know. Fun, friends, social.
The rest of you.
Right. And so maybe I need to go through and just really clean out my Instagram closet. And if I unfollow you, it's not because I don't love you or value you as a person. It's just I have to carve out space for what I can actually handle right now in my life.
Yeah. One of the things that has happened to me, I've totally lost contact with a lot of my faraway friends. So if you're worried about that, it will happen.
Good. Okay. Good to know.
But it's kind of tough love because, like it or not, you realize they don't miss you. I guess you probably weren't that close to begin with. And the people that you are really close to, you will call and you will text. And you'll call and text more.
Yeah.
Because you don't have these other ways of just being like, oh, I got my Lindsay quota today. You know, like, oh, I liked her picture. She knows I'm thinking of her. You don't know that they're thinking of you.
No, that it really doesn't mean
anything.
That's so interesting, though, because we totally base our worth or, like, happiness on the amount of numbers next to the heart. You know what I mean? The number of likes makes us feel validated. Yeah. But really, how much of your love went into tapping that for me?
Yeah.
Like, none. Sometimes I tap it just so people won't realize how much I hate them.
No, but really, I feel like I have lost a lot of contact with people, and we don't miss each other. I don't think that they even notice, and I feel a lot better. I feel so much more my needs are fulfilled. And I have more meaningful contact with the people who I need to.
That's so interesting. And I think for me, I would do it the flip side, because just personally, I've had a hard time holding on to friends in my life, and it's something I'm trying to be better at. I've lost contact with, like, tons of people that I would have loved to continue to be great friends with if I could. and maybe socially I just don't have the bandwidth. But I think
that.
in my mind, what would work for me would be the flip side, is to only follow the people I don't get to see on a regular basis. And I do want to see their kids growing up. And I wouldn't follow you because I see you
every day.
Every day.
More than we want to sometimes.
Way more than I want to. I'm just kidding. But really, I see you every day, so why would I need to see the picture I was standing behind you for, like, when you were taking that picture? I saw that in real life. Do I need to see it on Instagram? No, I don't.
That's a really good workaround for you. That's a really good insight.
I'm going to use this.
Yeah, and I think that would help you, and I say this actually to myself, I think that would help me be less like, oh, what do I look like in that picture? Or, how do I compare to all these other people? Which is another one of the big pitfalls, at least for me, social media, is just comparing, even when I don't want to be, even when I tell myself, okay, no, I'm going to get onto social media and I'm not going to compare. It's just inevitable. And so I think that's a really good idea. You're reminding me that I did that for a while, where my sister-in-law was like the only person who I really followed for my nieces and nephews to see them. But now she sends us all the same pictures to like our family shared photo album. So
which is
eliminated the need for me.
Way more fun because the comments are personalized.
Yeah, and I'm not like, who is this chick who's commenting on my niece? Now you know the real reason why I'm not on social media. It's because it brings out the lion inside of me.
So I'm loving this conversation. I feel like the people who are listening are going to, maybe if they don't do exactly the same thing you do, but they will find things that work for them.
Yeah.
So your ideal healthy relationship is what you're doing now, which is not on your phone, only text and email on the phone. Instagram and Facebook are on the computer, and you set it aside for a certain time during the day. But do not disturb on your phone. Is there anything else that you do? What about when people are talking about, oh, did you see so-and-so on Instagram? What do you say?
Yeah.
How do you deal with those situations?
Well, I think that most of my friends know now that I'm clueless. A lot of those things.
So they'll fill you in.
So I just put the clueless face on, like, They're like, oh. But actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing that I've recognized now that I'm off of social media a lot, is how weird is it that we feel the need to post everything that we do. And now when we get together with friends, it's like, hey, I saw that you went this place on Saturday with so-and-so. Like, how creepy is that? Why do we subscribe to that? I don't know. I just think it's
never
so
thought
weird.
of that before.
And when I hear that people say that, I feel like they always have feelings behind it.
Tell me about those feelings.
Where you can tell that, like, either they felt left out or they want to hear more about what happened. I don't know. So the more I'm off, the more I just feel like good riddance, and I just wish that I could rip the blindfold off of everyone else and be like, behold! Freedom! The light of day!
I am
real
right
life.
there with you. So Rose is, at the time of this recording, Rose is beta testing this workbook I'm making. It's called 10 Days to Social Media Freedom. And I think I called it Break Your Social Media Habit in the previous episode. So disregard that. It is now called 10 Days to Social Media Freedom. And I feel strongly about this because I am so against having things done to me or doing things myself that I'm not aware of. If I'm not in control of what my mind is doing, that irritates me.
Yep.
The fact that these web developers have come up with a way to take me away from myself and keep me from doing the actual things I want to do in my life, that makes me angry. Yeah. And so I feel the same way as you, Rose, that I've seen the light. And I'm also still struggling with it. Like, I still have to go back to the tactics in the workbook over and over again, and the 10 days to social media freedom, that is the blindfold or the blinders being ripped off your eyes.
Yeah.
You have to have that happen so that you have the tools for the future, because it's not going to last. Like, you will get sucked back in if if you are not extremely diligent.
Yeah, and your circumstances change. You know, you move or you need it for your job, and I think that your workbook is really useful in the sense that it gives you time to step back and say, "This is what my life is like without it. This is how much I want to use it. This is the space that I have in my life for that, and these are the things that I want to protect." Because I think that more than anything, what will motivate you is not telling yourself what you can't do so much as just why are you staying off of social media? I think it comes down to you realize you don't miss the little things. You don't miss knowing what people did over the weekend. What matters to you a lot more are the big things that are going on in your life that you would be missing otherwise.
And just like we were saying before, that time to process. Or just thinking, like, if I took all those minutes, all the minutes I've ever spent on Instagram or Facebook, put those minutes together. I don't even want to try and tally it up.
Yeah.
I don't even want to average my daily usage and multiply it by whatever. 2007 was when I got my first Facebook account. 2007. How old was I?
What year is it now?
It's 19. This is 12 years of my life.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I think it can be really sad. I just think it's a really sad way to spend your life. Because life is really just the small moments. It's just a lot of small moments in a row. So you know, you can't tell me like, "Oh, I only spend 10 minutes a day. It's fine." I mean, maybe that is fine for you, but those 10 free minutes are precious. So make sure that you're using them exactly how you want to.
Yeah, because what if you didn't? What if you didn't use it for Instagram?
Yeah.
Like, what? I feel like there's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
It's endless.
Yeah. And I think you touched on something really important, that we get a great sense of satisfaction out of enacting control over our own selves, of acting with intention.
Yes.
And being deliberate. And so even just knowing that you're using it exactly how you want to use it and it's not using you, brings a great deal of peace and satisfaction.
So let's bring it back to Charlie and Robin. They're going to grow up.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I just want to give my daughter a dumb phone for the rest of her life. Even after she graduates college and leaves the house, like, sorry, you're not allowed to have a smartphone. Not sure that's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like. I have some things in mind for being able to help her with social media and smartphones. But thinking about the twins. So what do you want Charlie and Robin to know about social media?
So I hope that they realize that what other people think about them is none of their business. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. And so there really is very little need. See how many likes, see what comments. I also just hope they realize how important time is and how life goes by. It goes by. I hope that they remember during their childhood how much eye contact they had with me. And I hope that someday they realize I understood them so well because I was watching them. You know, I was watching when Charlie stole Robin's toy, and that's why I knew why she started crying and hit him, and that's why I knew why he came to me crying.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, both of them creating a ruckus while I'm doing something on my phone and me being like, "Hey, stop it!" I can see what's going on in their lives, and I care, and I understand their personalities. I hope that they remember that. I hope they realize that those are small benefits, that me choosing to be deliberate about my usage blessed our family and strengthened our relationships just moment by moment.
I'm like, oh man. And it's not bad, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse to keep doing things the way I'm doing them. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't grow up with a mom who held a phone in front of her face.
Yeah.
And so much of parenting is so uncertain Anyway, you could try and do everything exactly like your mom and still have your kids turn out completely different than you and your siblings did. But I have this feeling that it won't be a good thing.
Yeah.
It won't be a good thing if the example that I set is one of having to say, just a minute, just a minute, just a minute.
Yeah.
And not really even hearing them the first time. Or just always having the phone up in my face, even if I'm reading a book or reading the scriptures.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know exactly how it's going to affect them, but I know it's not going to be good. Because once they do have phones, what's their behavior going to be like? It's going to be like mine. It's going to be worse than mine. They're going to be teenagers, right? You know, I got a phone I got a smartphone after I'd been married for a year.
Yeah.
And I still have trouble keeping my addiction in check. How is it going to be for a kid who is like developing still?
Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely something the adults have to take on very seriously, because we're the first ones that this is happening to, and so we have to act preemptively to say, I'm going to protect you from this struggle until you're old enough to struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you watching me struggle with it will give you some ideas, and, you know, you'll be able to do better and use it to your benefit and not, you know, to your detriment.
Yeah. If we had to sum it up, how does staying mostly away from social media help us learn who we are, live true to who we want to be, and love ourselves better every day?
So you're returning to yourself. You're able to check in with your brain. You come to know yourself better. It's almost like people watching, except you're watching yourself, which brings you peace and contentment in ways that I won't even try to describe. Just try it. Living true to who we want to be, I'd say you regain control, or at least a feeling of control and deliberateness in your life. And I'd say you will become the kind of friend you want to become, because you will no longer be treating apps as more important than the people you're with, but also because when you realize, I don't know what's going on in this person's life, I'm going to call her and just tell her I've been thinking about her. That's going to mean so much to both of you, so much more than likes. And then you said love ourselves better every day. So I think that having those moments of just quiet built in and boredom and not having the constant input, you regain a lot of clarity. You receive insights you need to solve your problems. You will be free from distorted thinking, from the comparisons or the feeling of, somewhere in my life I messed up because I didn't end up like this other person that I'm watching on social media. I listened to a devotional once given by David Hart, who's just a professor at BYU, Brigham Young University. And he said, vital moments when we often unintentionally learn about ourselves and receive spiritual promptings and other insights only come in the space of absence from the noise. And I think that's one of the things I value most about staying mostly out of social media is having just moments of absence built into my day and receiving that clarity and insight that I really am searching for, you know. And when you have problems, you're always trying to figure out the solution. You talk to your friends about it, and you read about it, and you Google it. But I think that it all comes together when you stop. And so keeping those moments protected.
Love that. Okay, Rose. Muchas gracias, señorita. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This has been really fun. It's always been a dream of mine to be on a podcast.
Seriously?
I was kind of hoping it would be This American Life, but this is a good starting place.
Next.
Someday, Ira Glass and I.
Awesome. Well, if you're on This American Life before me, I'm going to be mad. And I'll be happy for you, but I probably will. You'll probably be mad
if I post about it.
Yeah,
right?
Don't post about it. I'll just call you and ask how it went.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Rose.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Wasn't that awesome? how much do you want to not be listening to this podcast anymore? Rose is still here. We're still talking. But really, though, what stuck out to you? What pricked your heart? What made you feel like you need to change? And I've had probably 50 moments during this podcast episode of things that I need to do. And no, I can't implement them all at once, but I am committed to trying to be more deliberate about my technology use. And I would love it if you did the same. And if that means unfollowing my Instagram account or anybody else's, by all means. And I hope all of your friends feel the same. So, for the Pop Challenge for this week, what we're going to do is follow one of these suggestions that Rose has mentioned from Digital Minimalism. So, the Power of Practice Challenge this week, the Pop Challenge is clear out your Instagram and Facebook closets. And what I mean by this is go through and deliberately choose the people you want to see. So whether that means you do what Rose does, where she only follows the people who are in her life physically at the time, or if you want to take my approach and only follow the people that you want to see growing up and changing, make sure that you carve out space just for them, because on your feed, you might be following 600 people. How many do you actually see? Who do you want those people to be? Okay, so go and clear out your closet. And if you haven't yet, I want you to go to learnliveloveyourself.com/no social media and type in your email, and I will send you a free download of this 10 Days to Social Media Freedom workbook. It's important. And I have spent my time off of social media trying to create this for you. And now I'm going to go back onto social media to try and promote it. But it's for you and it's for me. And it's the way that we're going to rip those blinders off and find out what do we actually want to do with our lives. Okay? Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm Lindsay Clyde. This is the Learn, Live, Love Yourself podcast. Subscribe, leave a review, and next time, bring a friend.